There's one more, James said, handing Lily a small box wrapped in silver paper. This one's from Eliza. Lily tore into the package with enthusiasm, revealing a velvet jewelry box. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a pendant shaped like a rocket ship, small diamonds forming stars around it. It's beautiful, Lily breathed, immediately holding it out to Eliza. Can you put it on me? As Eliza fastened the clasp around the girl's neck, she felt a wave of emotion she hadn't anticipated. The stars glow in the dark, she explained. For my favorite aspiring astronaut. Lily threw her arms around Eliza's neck, nearly knocking her backward. Thank you. I'm never taking it off. Not even in the shower. Maybe during showers, James suggested with a laugh. Metal tarnishes. Later that evening, after Lily had finally succumbed to exhaustion and fallen asleep still clutching her new necklace, James and Eliza sat on his small back porch, sharing a bottle of wine. You've changed her life, you know, James said quietly. Before you, she wouldn't let anyone get close. Not after Maria. Eliza shook her head. You did the hard part long before I arrived. I'm just, supplementary. Is that how you see yourself? James asked, turning to face her fully. As an add-on to our lives? The question caught her off guard. I don't know what I am, she admitted. CEO, girlfriend, almost stepmother? None of the labels seemed to fit exactly right. James was quiet for a long moment, swirling the wine in his glass. I've been thinking about labels too, he finally said. Specifically, whether we need a new one. Eliza's heart stuttered in her chest. What kind of label did you have in mind? Instead of answering, James set down his glass and reached into his pocket, withdrawing a small box not unlike the one Lily had opened earlier. I had planned something more elaborate, he said, his voice uncharacteristically nervous. Dinner at that restaurant where we had our first official date. But sitting here tonight, after watching you with Lily all day, it just feels right to ask now. He opened the box to reveal a ring, elegant but not ostentatious, with a single diamond flanked by smaller sapphires. Eliza Chen, would you consider adding wife to your collection of labels? For a woman renowned for her quick thinking and decisive nature, Eliza found herself momentarily speechless. A year ago, marriage had been so far from her plans that she hadn't even considered it a possibility. Now, looking at the man before her, this kind, dedicated father who had somehow slipped past all her carefully constructed defenses, she couldn't imagine any other future. Yes, she said simply, her voice steady despite the tears threatening at the corners of her eyes. Though I should warn you, I'm not changing my name. The board would have a collective aneurysm. James laughed, sliding the ring onto her finger. I wouldn't dream of asking. Though I'm not sure how to feel about being Mr. Chen. Parker Chen has a nice ring to it, she suggested, leaning forward to kiss him. For all three of us, perhaps. The question of how to tell Lily occupied their conversation for the remainder of the evening. In the end, they decided on breakfast the following morning, wanting her to be the first to know. When morning came, they found Lily already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a serious expression that immediately set off alarm bells for both adults. We need to talk, she announced as they entered, sounding eerily like a miniature version of Eliza in a board meeting. James and Eliza exchanged concerned glances before sitting down across from her. What's on your mind, sweetheart? James asked. Lily took a deep breath, her rocket ship necklace glinting in the morning light. I think Eliza should live here all the time, she declared. It's inefficient for her to have a separate apartment when she sleeps here 4 nights a week anyway. Eliza choked on the sip of coffee she'd just taken, while James unsuccessfully tried to suppress a laugh. That's very practical thinking, Eliza managed once she'd recovered. I've made a pros and cons list, Lily continued, sliding a piece of paper across the table. Sure enough, in her careful handwriting, she'd enumerated the benefits of their cohabitation, including Dad's cooking improves when Eliza's here and my science projects win more when Eliza helps. The cons list contained only one item: my bathroom stuff might get crowded. We actually wanted to talk to you about something similar, James said, taking Eliza's hand on the tabletop. Last night, I asked Eliza to marry me. Lily's eyes widened. Like, be my stepmom for real? If that's okay with you, Eliza said cautiously. The girl was quiet for a moment, her brow furrowed in thought. Would we have to move? Because Madison's stepdad made them move to a new house, and she had to change schools. No, James assured her quickly. We might look for a slightly bigger place eventually, but we'd stay in the neighborhood, near your school and friends. Lily nodded, apparently satisfied with this answer. And would you still help with my science projects? Even though you'd be my mom and not just Dad's girlfriend? Absolutely, Eliza promised. Though I think we'd need to discuss the appropriate level of parental involvement. Your last project was suspiciously advanced for 5th grade. Mrs. Rodriguez didn't complain when it won the district fair, Lily pointed out pragmatically. So, are you okay with this? James asked, bringing the conversation back to the main point. Lily considered the question with all the gravity of a Supreme Court justice. Yes, she finally declared. But I want to be the flower girl and the ring bearer. Jason from my class had his dog as the ring bearer at his mom's wedding, and the dog ate the rings. I'm more responsible than a dog. Can't argue with that logic, James agreed, relief evident in his voice. And I want to help plan the wedding, Lily continued, warming to the subject. I've been watching this show with Aunt Teresa about wedding dresses, and some of them are really ugly, Eliza. You need my help. I wouldn't dream of making such an important decision without your input, Eliza assured her, fighting back a smile. The conversation quickly devolved into Lily's increasingly elaborate wedding plans, including suggestions for a space-themed cake and the possibility of releasing butterflies instead of throwing rice, because rice kills birds, Dad, everyone knows that. As James made pancakes and Lily sketched potential bridesmaid dresses at the kitchen table, Eliza found herself observing the domestic scene with a sense of wonder. This ordinary morning in a modest house in the Sunset District was so far removed from where she'd imagined her life would be, and yet it felt more right than any achievement in her professional career. The wedding planning consumed much of the following 6 months, with Lily taking her responsibilities as junior wedding coordinator, a title she'd created for herself, very seriously. Eliza found herself fielding calls from her assistant about quarterly projections while simultaneously approving flower arrangements and cake samples. The board had taken the news of her engagement with varying degrees of enthusiasm. The older members expressed thinly veiled concern about her divided focus, while the younger directors offered genuine congratulations. Her assistant, Marcus, who had witnessed the relationship from its beginning, seemed personally invested in the wedding's success, offering his services as an unofficial planner when Lily's ideas became too fantastical. She wants doves and butterflies released during the ceremony, Eliza explained during one of their planning sessions. James is researching whether the two species would fight mid-air. The logistics alone would be a nightmare, Marcus agreed. Perhaps we could suggest paper cranes as a compromise? We could hang 1,000 of them over the reception area, it's a symbol of good fortune. This suggestion was met with approval from Lily, who immediately recruited her classmates to help with the folding project, turning it into a math lesson about how many cranes each child would need to complete to reach their goal. Through it all, James remained a steady presence, handling Lily's enthusiasm and Eliza's occasional stress with equal patience. When wedding decisions threatened to overwhelm her already packed schedule, he would simply take the binders from her hands, pour her a glass of wine, and handle whatever crisis had arisen. You're remarkably calm about all this, Eliza observed one evening as they reviewed seating charts for the reception. I've seen tech IPOs with less complexity. James shrugged. I've learned to take life's chaos in stride. After Maria died, there were days when just getting Lily dressed for school felt like climbing Everest. This, planning a celebration with the woman I love, is a joy, even with all the complications. His perspective helped ground Eliza when the competing demands of work and wedding planning threatened to overwhelm her. She began blocking off her calendar for family dinners and Lily's school events, something that would have been unthinkable in her previous life. The wedding itself was scheduled for spring, to be held in the garden of a historic estate in Marin County. As the date approached, Eliza found herself increasingly reflective about the journey that had brought her to this point. 2 weeks before the ceremony, she sat in her office late one evening, finalizing the details for Horizon's next product launch. A knock at her door revealed James, holding a paper bag that smelled suspiciously like her favorite Thai restaurant. "Lily's at Teresa's for a sleepover," he explained, setting the food on her desk. "Thought you might need dinner." "You're a lifesaver," Eliza admitted, suddenly aware of how hungry she was. "How did you get past security?" "Your assistant called me," James said, unpacking containers. "Said you'd been here since 6 a.m. and hadn't eaten all day." "Marcus is becoming alarmingly invested in my personal welfare," Eliza observed, though she couldn't muster any real annoyance. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes before James spoke again. "I went by the community center today. The summer program registration is already full, with a waiting list." "That's wonderful," Eliza said sincerely. The center had become a source of pride for both of them, expanding its offerings beyond their initial vision. "The board voted to name the computer lab after you," James added. "In recognition of your personal donations." Eliza waved this away. "The money was the easy part. You're the one who built the relationships that make the place work." Team effort, James reminded her, echoing their long-standing acknowledgement of their complementary strengths. As they finished their meal, Eliza found herself studying James's face in the soft light of her office. "Are you nervous?" she asked suddenly. "About the wedding? About the ceremony?" "No," he answered honestly. "About merging our lives completely?" "A little. It's a big change for all of us." His candor was one of the things she loved most about him. "I keep waiting for the panic to set in," she admitted. "For the part of me that's been independent for so long to revolt against the idea of being someone's wife. But it hasn't happened." "Maybe because I'm not asking you to be any less than who you are," James suggested. "The CEO and the wife aren't mutually exclusive identities." "My mother would disagree," Eliza said with a small smile. "She still thinks I'm making a career-ending mistake." "And what do you think?" Eliza considered the question seriously. "I think I spent years believing I had to choose between professional success and personal happiness. It never occurred to me that I could have both, that the right partner would enhance my life rather than complicate it." James reached across the desk to take her hand. "For what it's worth, I think you're doing an excellent job at both. Lily and I are the luckiest people in San Francisco." "Flattery will get you everywhere, Mr. Parker," Eliza teased, though the warmth in her chest belied her light tone. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and bright, a rarity for spring in the Bay Area. Eliza stood at the window of the estate's bridal suite, watching as the final preparations took place in the garden below. "Stop peeking," Lily admonished, already dressed in her flower girl outfit, a compromise design that incorporated both traditional elements and subtle nods to her space obsession. "It's bad luck to see the decorations before the ceremony." "I think that rule applies to seeing the groom, not the flowers," Eliza corrected gently. "Better safe than sorry," Lily insisted, pulling her away from the window. "Aunt Teresa says we need to start your hair now if we're going to finish everything on schedule." The next few hours passed in a flurry of activity: hair, makeup, photographs, and last-minute adjustments to Eliza's gown, a sleek, modern design that managed to be both elegant and comfortable. "You look beautiful," her mother said, entering the room just as the stylist was placing the final pins in Eliza's hair. Despite her initial reservations about the marriage, Mrs. Chen had gradually warmed to James and Lily, won over by their genuine affection for her daughter. "Thank you, Mom," Eliza replied, surprised by the emotion that suddenly tightened her throat. Her mother approached, adjusting the necklace at Eliza's throat with careful hands. "Your father would have been proud today," she said quietly. "Not because you're getting married, though he would have liked James very much, but because you've built a life on your own terms." The simple statement, coming from a woman who had always pushed Eliza toward traditional expectations, meant more than any elaborate blessing could have. The ceremony itself passed in a blur of emotion. Eliza would later remember fragments: Lily's solemn concentration as she scattered rose petals along the aisle, the proud smile on James's face as she approached, the weight of the ring as he slipped it onto her finger. The vows they had written together, promising partnership rather than possession, growth alongside stability. At the reception, surrounded by friends, family, and colleagues, Eliza found herself continuously drawn back to James's side, as though some invisible thread connected them even across the crowded room. "Mrs. Chen," he greeted her during one such reunion, testing the name they had decided would be used in their personal, if not professional, lives. "That's CEO Chen to you," she corrected with a smile. "My apologies," he said solemnly. "I'll remember the proper title in the future." Their playful exchange was interrupted by Lily, who had been circulating among the guests with all the confidence of a seasoned socialite. "Dad, Eliza, you need to cut the cake now. The photographer says the light is perfect." The cake, a compromise between Lily's space theme and more traditional elements, featured tiers that graduated from deep blue at the bottom to pale silver at the top, with constellations piped in edible silver across the surface. As they prepared to make the ceremonial first cut, James whispered in Eliza's ear, "Ready for the next adventure?" Looking at him and Lily, both watching her with identical expressions of love and excitement, Eliza felt a certainty she had rarely experienced outside the boardroom. "Absolutely," she replied, and together they pressed the knife into the cake, marking the official beginning of their life as a family. 5 years later, Eliza stood in the doorway of their home office, watching as James helped their 3-year-old son, Thomas, build a tower of blocks on the carpet. Lily, now 16 and already applying to colleges with top engineering programs, sat at the desk, focused intently on her laptop screen. "Mom," she called without looking up, having adopted the title for Eliza shortly after the wedding, "can you look at this essay? I think the conclusion is weak." "In a minute," Eliza promised, still observing the scene before her. The home office had become a family gathering spot in their new house, a Victorian in the same neighborhood as James's original home, renovated to accommodate their growing family while maintaining its historic charm. Thomas spotted her and abandoned his blocks, running toward her with the unsteady determination of a toddler. "Mama! Look what we built!" Eliza scooped him up, settling him on her hip with practiced ease. "Very impressive architecture," she praised, examining the precarious tower. "Are you going to be an engineer like your sister?" "No," Thomas declared with the certainty only a 3-year-old could muster. "I'm going to be an astronaut and a doctor and a teacher." "Ambitious," James commented, rising from the floor with considerably less grace than he had 5 years earlier. "Must get that from your mother." Eliza rolled her eyes at him, though there was no heat in the gesture. "The board meeting ran long," she explained. Quarterly projections exceeded expectations, so everyone had opinions about where to allocate the surplus. "Community outreach program?" James guessed, knowing her priorities. "Among other things," she confirmed. "We're expanding the tech education initiative to 5 more centers like ours." The community center that had brought them together had indeed become a model for similar programs throughout the city, with Horizon Technologies providing both funding and technical expertise. James now oversaw the entire network of centers, having left his previous job to focus on expanding their impact. "Lily, dinner in 20 minutes, Eliza called as she carried Thomas toward the kitchen. "And yes, I'll look at your essay after we eat. Is it the MIT one or the Stanford one?" James asked, following them. Caltech, Lily replied without looking up. Their aerospace program is slightly better for what I want to specialize in. All the way in Pasadena, James murmured to Eliza as they entered the kitchen. That's going to be tough. She'll be home for holidays, Eliza reminded him, though she shared his apprehension about their daughter moving so far away. And we can certainly afford to visit regularly. As they prepared dinner together, a well-choreographed routine they'd perfected over the years, Eliza reflected on how thoroughly her life had transformed. Horizon Technologies had continued to thrive under her leadership, recently being named one of the most innovative companies in the country. But her definition of success had expanded far beyond stock prices and market share. Thomas helped by arranging napkins on the table, his small face screwed up in concentration as he tried to fold them the way Eliza had taught him. James moved around the kitchen with easy confidence, occasionally pausing to drop a kiss on her cheek or ruffle their son's hair. The Parker Foundation called today, he mentioned as he chopped vegetables. They want to feature our community center model in their annual report. That's wonderful, Eliza said sincerely. The foundation, established with a portion of her Horizon stock shortly after their marriage, had become a significant force in educational equity throughout California. They also asked if you'd consider joining their board, James added. I told them you'd probably decline, given your current commitments. Eliza paused, considering. Actually, I might be interested. Marcus has been handling more of the day-to-day operations lately. It might be time to delegate further. James raised an eyebrow. Eliza Chen considering stepping back from direct control? Should I check for fever? She flicked water at him from the sink. People change, James. Even ambitious CEOs. I'm well aware, he replied with a soft smile. It's been a privilege to witness. Dinner that evening was filled with Lily's excited chatter about college applications, Thomas's elaborate stories about his day at preschool, and James and Eliza's quieter exchanges about work and household matters. It was ordinary in every way, and yet Eliza found herself savoring each moment with an appreciation that still surprised her after all these years. Later, after the children were in bed, Eliza and James sat on their back porch, a larger version of the one where he had proposed, sharing their nightly glass of wine and conversation. I saw that viral video today, James mentioned casually. The one of the woman proposing to that guy in the middle of a shopping mall. Reminded me of us, in a way. Except I didn't publicly humiliate myself, Eliza pointed out. My mortification was limited to your living room. True, James conceded. Though sometimes I wonder what would have happened if you hadn't shown up that night. If you'd just gone home after the gala and never said anything. Eliza considered this alternate timeline. I'd probably still be the ice queen of Silicon Valley, married to my company and wondering why success felt so hollow. And I'd be trying to convince Lily that ramen noodles constitute a balanced dinner at least once a week, James added with a laugh. The horror, Eliza deadpanned, leaning against his shoulder. I think we made the better choice. Definitely, James agreed, wrapping an arm around her. Though I still maintain that your assistant deserves partial credit for our happiness. If Marcus hadn't called me that day you were working through dinner. Marcus is getting an extremely generous Christmas bonus, don't worry, Eliza assured him. Though I draw the line at naming our next child after him. James nearly choked on his wine. Next child? Is there something you're not telling me? No, Eliza laughed, enjoying his reaction. Just keeping our options open. Thomas has been asking for a baby sister lately. Has he now? James mused, recovering his composure. And what does the CEO of Horizon Technologies think about that request? Eliza turned to face him fully, her expression softening. She thinks that some of the best decisions she's ever made had nothing to do with business strategy. And she's open to further negotiations on the subject. I've always admired your negotiation skills, James murmured, leaning in to kiss her. As the stars appeared overhead and the sounds of the city hummed around them, Eliza Chen, CEO, wife, mother, and so much more than she had once allowed herself to be, felt the familiar certainty that had guided her most important decisions. This life, with all its beautiful complications and unexpected turns, was exactly where she was meant to be. In the distance, a shooting star streaked across the sky, the kind Lily would have made them all wish upon when she was younger. Eliza didn't need to wish for anything. Everything she wanted was already right here.